guys, welcome to Finding Joy in the Mundane. I am your host, Aya Nichols, and today's episode is going to be one of my favorites. We're going to be talking about letting go of control. Yay! So this topic is very interesting to me because I would consider myself definitely a control freak. And a person that's like driven by the need to have control to feel safe. I feel like that's my default. And I think it is rooted definitely in my past. I think every foster kid who has been moved around a lot can relate to this as far as not having any control over your life. And I wanted to share a little bit more about how it all developed and how it has caused this little seed in me to just continually grow and grow until it consumed me, and how I finally broke free from it. Spoiler alert, it was Jesus, but it was very long and hard to do this. So before I begin with the stories, what is control? Ultimately, control is belief that you are in charge of you and your future and the outcome of all of it. I feel like a lot of people can relate to the feeling of trying to keep everything together the best that you can. And despite it, it all fell apart, came crashing down. And you were left with nothing but the remnants of what you've tried to do and the remainder of your failure. That's not a good feeling. Growing up as a foster kid, control is something that we always wanted. We didn't have it. I didn't have it. When I was growing up, if it wasn't for mama, then my brother was in charge. He was in charge of everything. He was in charge of what I did during the day. He was in charge of what I ate. He was in charge of where I went. He was in charge of where I took my sisters. It was all consuming. He controlled my every day. One time, I really wanted to stay after school for a study group. And my brother told me that I couldn't go anymore because I had to be home by the time he came home so I can do whatever he needs me to do. I decided that I was going to stay, and I knew that I was going to pay for it. I just didn't know what it was going to be. When I came home that night, he pinned me to the wall and reminded me that he is the one in control, not me. And that if I were to disobey him again, he will make it hurt more than what it is now. And I think we give and take our control all the time. I gave him more power over me. I surrendered my control because I didn't feel strong enough to have it. After that, control became this bargaining chip where I had to surrender parts of myself in order to gain more freedom to control my own life. To just say that I want to go to an after-school Bible study or to an after-school event or go out with my friends, or go to the park. When you enter foster care, it is different because you do immediately lose control of everything. And you're bound to your social worker and you're bound to your foster parents. Whatever they say has to go. Otherwise, you will be homeless. So you have to be able to obey and submit well with a smile on your face. And if you didn't, then you were sent away, period. There was no room for me to be me. It was just whoever everyone wanted me to be. And in some sense, that is what gave me the sense of control. In some sense, that gave me the feeling of control because I was basically manipulating myself to be whoever they wanted me to be, but at least I gained safety from it. So in some sense, I'm still trying to control my life, just not well. Especially when you're not an adult yet. I remember I couldn't have sleepovers, I couldn't go to the mall, I couldn't do my own hair in a certain way, I couldn't put on makeup, I couldn't put on certain clothes. Everything was determined for me. And I hated it. I hated it so much. All I ever wanted to do was just be free. And I didn't realize that my need for control was the thing that was imprisoning me this whole time. When I became an adult, situations just changed, but my need for control didn't. So I would try to manipulate everything in my life to try to go the way I want it to go. Relationships, my future, my job, everything. And with that came a lot of manipulation, a lot of lies, a lot of striving, a lot of worry. It was exhausting, especially when you're trying to control something that is bigger than you. And that is scary to feel like you don't have control over yourself. But the real question is, who should be in control? Should it be my foster parents? Should have been my teachers? Should have been me? Maybe a little bit of all of them would have been nice. Or at least for me to be in the room whenever they were making decisions. That would have been nice. I think a lot of people search for control because they want to be included in the decisions of their life. And the more they feel excluded, the more they're going to try to grasp more control in other areas of their life. That's the issue with control. If you don't have it in one way, you're going to search for it in another. And ultimately, we can't have control of everything. Honestly, we barely have control of anything other than ourselves, our reactions. And even then, that is a discipline that we have to learn ourselves and grow. So if you haven't even learned how to discipline yourself, how to control and regulate your emotions, you're going to be controlled by your emotions. Your actions will seem completely outside of you. Growing up with trauma, I felt completely out of control. Something someone would say or a look would give me, and I would just go off. Screaming, yelling, running away, whatever it is. And I could hardly explain it myself because it was something being triggered in me that I wasn't ready to accept, I wasn't ready to work on yet, but it still controlled my life. Just because I ignored it doesn't mean that it didn't control me. If anything, because I ignored it, it controlled me even more because it controlled every decision I made based off of what I think should happen. This need for control, honestly, is very nearsighted, I've learned, because you rely on your own understanding for it. If you want to control something, then you better be the smartest person about it. You better do all the research about it before you start making decisions because you will have to reap the consequences. And we don't fully understand that. We kind of just make decisions and hope it goes well. And then when it doesn't, we blame other people or we blame ourselves, and then we go into despair, and then we say that nothing ever works out. One thing that I really wanted to have control over and tried to manipulate my entire life was relationships. Especially within dating. Why? I could give you a million reasons back then why, but I could also give you reasons why I thought we would be good together. Even though we had very different personalities, in my own head, I've already decided that he is good for me, that he is what I need. So I would try to manipulate everything about myself and about situations that would help me get closer to him. And when that wouldn't work, I would be heartbroken. When they didn't like me, I would blame me. And I didn't understand it was the fact that I was trying to control something that wasn't meant for me to control. I was trying to push myself onto other people who could have hurt me even deeper, and I didn't even know. But I was so focused on making sure everything worked out that I couldn't see who those people really were. Until later on, when I finally was able to get enough distance from the situation to say, you know, maybe it actually did turn out for the best that I didn't end up being with this person. Because honestly, I wouldn't even have liked them, and they would have ended up hurting me even more. Especially when you have trauma in your life, you need to be very careful in choosing the people in your life. Not everyone can be opened up to. Not everyone is safe to open up to. Not everyone needs to hear my story. Not everyone deserves to hear my story. And certainly not everyone can live in my story. And as a 15-year-old, I didn't understand that. Even as an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, I didn't understand that. Because I was trying to create this life that I thought I needed. I needed it to look a certain way for me to feel like it was good. And if it didn't look like that, then I felt like I was failing at life. And if one opportunity didn't work out, I would be destroyed. I'm the type of person that likes to, imagine things. But ultimately, it's my little deep sense of wanting control of what the situation or circumstance will look like. So that way I can be prepared. I hate surprises. Hate them. Especially when it comes to life circumstances. I've had enough of them in my life. I don't need them. But I can't control that. I can't control what happens tomorrow. I can't control what happens later on today. All I can do is control right now what I do and say right now in me. And in what I put my trust in. I get to choose that. You get to decide who you trust. Don't let anyone take that away from you. People will try to manipulate you into giving up that trust. Don't do it. Give it to Jesus. He's the only trustworthy person that that you can fully depend on, that knows exactly what you need at the right time. And that is hard to admit and to surrender. That's the whole point about control, is the fact that it's the surrendering part that is the hardest to get over. Because when it comes to control, what we really are searching for is security and comfort. So everything that we think would provide us that, we want to have in our life. But our understanding of what brings security, what brings safety, and what brings us comfort is very distorted. So what you actually think will bring you safety will end up ruining your life. What you thought will bring you comfort will end up causing an addiction that you have to struggle with for 10 years. What you thought would be the love of your life would end up being the person that hurt you the most in your life, that was supposed to love you. Back when I was in foster care, I did everything that I can to go back with my family, to make things work. And I didn't understand why it didn't work out. And now I am more than grateful that it didn't, because I get to see the bigger picture. I now understand that if I had controlled my own life and gone back to Lebanon back then, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. So who has the control of your life is very important, but it also involves a lot of surrender on my end and your end. And sometimes the Lord does not give you the option. Thank God for that He knows us better than ourselves, and that He will take over when He needs to take over. By His grace and mercy, He takes over. But it's hard to see it that way whenever you feel like you were left with nothing and that you don't know what your life is going to look like anymore. I hate uncertainty. Not knowing anything, not knowing the ending makes me highly anxious. When I start reading a book, like a story, if I like it, if I initially even got into the book, I will read the end and then go back to the beginning and read it. Because I needed to know that this was going to end well. I didn't want to put myself in a place where I was going to then be heartbroken over false characters. But ultimately, I wanted to know the ending. I want to know my ending. I want to know everybody else's ending. And that's not possible. That's not something we can have. We can't know how everything is going to end up. So how do you have peace in that? Well, you let go of the control. You surrender the idea that you are your own savior, because you're not. You're not your own savior. You're not the savior of somebody else. All you can do is just be there for people. You can't control what they do, nor should you. And a lot of people kind of like disguise control as responsibility or like planning. It's like planning for the future, like my 5-year plan. 5-year plan. I am so past my 5-year plan, it's not even funny. But I'm much happier with this plan than I would have been with the other plan. When I became a Christian, I really wanted to work at a church. And I thought if I did all the right things, like going to seminary and leading Bible studies and growing in my faith and looking like the part, speaking the part, would help me get there. And when it didn't, I felt like I lost everything, because all of that decision making, where I went to school, what I did, what I said to people, how I showed up in situations, who I presented myself, all was towards this one goal in the back of my head that, despite me doing the best that I can, didn't even matter, because it wasn't for me. And I could not understand why. I wasn't able to understand because I wasn't willing to understand. I was so hard-headed, so stubborn. And that stubbornness got me in trouble over and over again, until finally I realized that I am not as smart as I think I am. I don't know the whole world. I don't see what God sees. I want to, more than anything, but that's not my job. That's not my role in this. My role is to trust in Him. If anything, I could see more of Him. I can request more. I could always ask for more of Him, and He will always give me more. But as far as giving me more control of my life for my own safety, He doesn't. And I kick and I scream, just like my daughter, until finally I surrender and am willing to see how things play out. So, what brought me to that point? Losing everything. And sometimes people just think that surrendering is admitting defeat or giving up, but it's not. It's realizing who truly has the power. When surrendering control over to God, it's not about giving up. It's about giving over. Give Him the benefit of the doubt that He knows what He's doing. Anyone who drives with me knows I am like a passenger, whatever they say. Someone who instructs the driver how to drive, even though I'm not a good driver. And that's out of fear. I can't help it. They know that they have the car under control, but I don't feel like they do. I feel like they're gonna run into this car in front of me, and then I'm gonna die and he's gonna die too. Does it ever happen? It hasn't yet. But does that stop me from freaking out every time? No. And that happens in much bigger things than just driving around. What truly drives control is fear. And honestly, it's just meant to protect us. I get that. It's our attempt to try to protect ourselves. But in that, because we don't have full understanding, we end up hurting ourselves in the process. So surrendering control is actually going to be better for you than you having that control ever could be. You letting go of that person will be better for you than anything you would have done by holding on to them. And sometimes we don't want to let go things because we don't want to feel that emptiness. But if we don't have that emptiness, how can God fill it? We have to trust that once we do let go and trust Him, that He will give us and take care of us and fill us with love, peace, and joy, that we wouldn't be left with nothing because we surrendered our own control. The way I thought if I surrendered, my whole world would fall apart. I would have nothing. I would be back homeless. If it wasn't up to me to control my job, to be the best, to do all of this, then I was just going to end up where I was. And I wasn't willing to do that. There was no peace in that. There was just a lot of different striving and worry, and I hated it. But whenever I gave control back to God, I was able to finally sit back. And even though it didn't feel right in the beginning, I learned how trusting Him is better and more fruitful than me trusting myself ever could be. And there's freedom in that. People think when you give up control that you'll feel empty. Instead, you'll feel free, especially when you surrender something that has control over you. Alcohol is a huge thing. One of the AA sayings is acknowledging that you are powerless over alcohol in your life. That every time you bring it in, it consumes you. You acknowledging that you're powerless gives you back control that alcohol had taken from your life. It seems backwards, but most of life is, so it is what it is. But it works. Them deciding that and drawing the line within themselves may make them feel weak, like saying, I can't have alcohol because I'm an alcoholic. Every time I can't have one drink. I just can't. Having a person say that and admitting that to themselves sets them free from it, because then they know what they need to do to protect their freedom. Stay away from it. And this could be anything: exercising, food, working, relationships. Our hearts want to attach itself to something. And if it's not the Lord, the thing that we attach ourselves to will end up destroying us every time, because we weren't made to attach ourselves to anything else other than the Lord. He's the only one that can satisfy us and has the best interest for us in our life. Surrendering was the hardest thing I ever had to do, but it was also the most freeing thing I ever did. And now I get to have peace. Now I get to just sit and watch Jesus work on my behalf. It's so humbling to know that I don't have to be everything. I don't have to know everything. I don't have to be right. I could be wrong all the time. And that's okay, because my life is not dependent on me. It's not dependent on me being right or wrong. It's not dependent on me doing good or bad. It's simply dependent on me trusting the Lord. And that is something I can do. I can do that. But it takes a lot of discipline to do it. When you finally stop striving and controlling, you get to just be the passenger in your life and allow the Lord to take the wheel. He's a much better driver than I am. I'm telling you this now. But sometimes I get scared. And then I start telling God what I want to happen. And that, He's driving a little bit too fast or too slow, usually for me. But I don't see the road ahead clearly. Only He does. So day after day, I try to remind myself that I am not the one that is in charge, nor should I be. And now I'm able to help other people with their life because I know that I'm not in control of it. I can give advice. I could walk through it with them, but I cannot solve it. And that frees me to be able to be there for them because I'm not taking control of their life to try to fix it. Some people just want someone to walk through life with them. So I hope that you consider that the next time that you are feeling out of control or that you are wanting to take control over your life and you're scared to surrender. There's so much joy in surrendering. Next week, I'm going to be talking about how not letting go of control consumes you and what that really looks like. So definitely tune in next week, and I will see you then. Bye.